problems he was having. One was called the Sleeping Beauty diet. It's where you don't eat and you don't drink. You take pills that make you sleep for hours, so then you're not awake and hungry and need to eat. And once he had his doctor put him in a medically induced coma, so he would not be able to eat anything. And for some reason, I know it was a different world back then, but like, oh my god.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters who's coming back to the channel, watching the videos in the title, man. Commented down below. Really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
The thing that keeps me up at night is the case of Casey Anthony. Casey Anthony was a mom who lived in Orlando, Florida with her 10-year-old daughter. On July 15, 2008, Casey's mom called the cops because she said that her granddaughter had been missing for like 30 days.
For 30 days?
Okay, and that, yeah. So the cops interviewed her. She said that she was with her babysitter named Zanny Gonzalez. She said that they both worked together at Universal Studios and that she would take the cops there to meet the person, and it came out that she was lying. She never even had a job there. They ended up going through the back of her car and it smelled awful. They ended up finding her remains in a wooded area not too far from the house. This is where the story gets messed up. It was like 2 years later. Casey Anthony was in court. It seemed to be a slam dunk. They found the little girl's DNA in the trunk of the mom's car. She was found not guilty of the murder of her daughter.
How? The evidence was all there.
Let's take a look at this photo. This was pulled from the evidence archives of the Michigan State Homicide Unit. It is the only known photo we have of who was known as the Skinner. So in the early 70s, in a rural part of Michigan, something very strange was going on. It started out as just a very high number of women who were going missing in this county, but it would soon turn very dark. It was like for every one of these women that went missing, there was always an article of clothing found, as well as a severed foot. So after all of these months of investigating and questioning people, they eventually stumble upon this abandoned home in the county, and they would obtain a warrant to search it. Inside were all of the bodies of the women, every single one of them, and they had all been skinned alive. This place was littered with all of these Polaroids that this man had taken of everything he had done to these women, but he only took one photo of himself. This picture, as he's never been caught, and this is all we know of the Skinner.
The Skinner. That's a crazy name.
This is the most dangerous prisoner in the world, and you'll never believe why. A little girl named Shiloh was on her phone at night when she got a call from a mysterious number. And on that night, she didn't pick up the phone because her parents weren't home, and she didn't want to talk to any strangers. Thinking it might be one of her friends from school or her teacher, she picked up the phone. And when she picked up the phone, she heard a little girl's voice. The little girl told Shiloh to come to the park at night alone, and told her that she would play with her. Not knowing better, Shiloh decided to leave her house and walk to the park. The time was now 1 a.m. as Shiloh slowly started walking at night to the park. No one was around except her, and it was eerily quiet. Shiloh quickly realized that there was no one around her, so she freaked out and called the number back again. But this time, no one picked up. She was so scared she just wanted to see someone, so she decided to run to the park to see her friend that called. And that's when Shiloh's heart started beating really fast, because she heard a small car parked up behind her. And what happens next will absolutely shock you. If you want to know what happens, like and follow for part 2.
What happened to Shiloh, man? I gotta find out for you guys, seekers.
This clown suit belonged to serial killer John Wayne Gacy. He would dress up as Pogo the Clown and perform for children at children's hospitals and other charitable events. It's eerie seeing these costumes in person. John Wayne Gacy murdered an estimated 33 boys and men, but his true victim count is still unknown. All of these items that I'm showing on screen belonged to John Wayne Gacy at one point, either inside or outside of prison, and it's absolutely eerie to be standing right in front of the killer clown himself. We're actually covering this story on our podcast Murder in America soon, and it's wild.
I couldn't be there, man. Bad energy.
They put Elvis on some insane diets to help combat with all the weight gain and health problems he was having. One was called the Sleeping Beauty diet. It's where you don't eat and you don't drink. You take pills that make you sleep for hours, so then you're not awake and hungry and need to eat. And once he had his doctor put him in a medically induced coma, so he would not be able to eat anything. And for some reason, this bitch complied. I know it was a different world back then, but like, oh my god. gosh. Throughout 1975, he refused to bathe. So man just like sat around, ate, and would not take a bath, and was gaining a ton of weight because of all of this. And this gave him a lot of sores on his body because he wouldn't bathe. Like, people need to bathe. The non-stop touring and the toll of his mother's death really took a decline on his mental and physical health. And obviously he was feeling bad about himself. Like, his face looks very different from when he looked like this heartthrob. And just being in the public eye in general is so stressful. His belly was bloated, he weighed so much, but his body didn't want to expand. It was something with his abdomen. I'm no doctor, and to be honest, everything I was reading I did not understand. But for some reason his abdomen did not want to make his stomach bigger, and his belly was so bloated. I mean, he struggled with a lot of constipation, and this ultimately led to his death. The next part of this video is in the playlist. Follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more content.
Imagine going to Disney World only to be followed by someone the entire time and not even know it. 17-year-old Madison Gaston received a notification on her phone that an Apple AirTag was following her the entire day. If you guys don't know what an Apple AirTag is, it's basically a mini tracking device used to find your personal items in case you lose them, such as your keys. So Madison received this creepy notification, and it stated that the AirTag was detected with her at 7:09 p.m., but she only received the notification at 11:33 p.m. When Madison clicked on the notification, a map appeared outlining every single place that she went to in the last 4 hours. So basically someone knew every move she was making. By the way, Madison was with her family, and when they saw this, they all panicked and emptied their bags and belongings in the parking lot, but they were still unable to find the AirTag. There's been a number of growing cases where women have reported AirTags following them, and this usually happens in places like Disney World or where kids or teens usually go. And unfortunately, a lot of criminals and predators are using AirTags to stalk people, steal cars, and even kidnap children. And just so you guys know, there are settings on your phone that allows you to get notifications if an AirTag is detected on you, so you might want to check that just to be safe.
Yeah, I need to turn that on immediately, bro. Those AirTags.
Just imagine capturing this on your Ring camera. It was 2018 and just outside of her condo in Phoenix, Arizona, when Jessica Catania got an alert on her phone and saw this. According to her eventual statement, she immediately realizes she's in danger. She locks her bedroom door, she starts dialing 911, but that's when she heard it. So whoever this man was, he then pries open the living room window and pops out the screen. He's in the house. But this woman, Jessica, she's like incredibly resourceful in a stressful situation. She immediately grabbed a hammer, any weapon that she could find from her closet, and she hides in her bathroom. But while she's waiting in there, she's got the door locked, but it would only be about 3 minutes before she eventually hears police inside her condo. But the problem is, they never found the man. To this day, she has no idea who this man was or why he broke into her condo. In the investigation, police would eventually nickname him Smiles.
Yeah, the creepy smile for sure. She was smart to
Barbie
go in that
has a
bathroom.
much creepier history than I thought. I'm going to show you some theories about Barbie that have been keeping me up at night, and I cover all sorts of creepy and true crime stuff, so follow along. In 2010, Barbie released a doll that had a camera on her necklace as well as a video screen on her back. This doll has since been discontinued, but there's a lot of rumors about what happened to this footage when it was recorded. So people have always theorized that the footage was collected and sold either by Mattel or by someone more nefarious. And it's been mentioned how easy it would have been for hackers to collect and sell all this data. The FBI even put out a statement about it. Barbie also released and discontinued the Hello doll, which could listen to children and respond with over 8,000 pre-recorded answers. A lot of parents worried that these dolls were potentially recording their children and then selling that data, but this doll also has really concerning reviews. Like, people say that the doll won't take no for an answer. Like, if she asked if you wanted to hear a story and then you said no, she would actually push back and then just tell you the story anyways. And the doll would also ask really specific and targeted questions about children, like how big their families were and if they had any siblings. Was this doll just collecting market data on children, or was it something much weirder?
That sounds like an early version of AI. That's what I'm getting, man. That doll wasn't trying to take no for an answer. It was happening back in the day and we didn't even know it right in front of our eyes. They've been working on it for a while, haven't they?
Do y'all remember back in 2009 when this young woman got her face tattooed with 56 stars and tried to cover it up by telling one of the most outrageous lies I have ever heard. Welcome back, true crimers. That was a mouthful. This is the case of Kimberly Valmanak. Viewer discretion is advised. So, like I said, back in 2009, Kimberly came up with this very brilliant idea of getting 56 star tattoos on her face. No biggie, no problem. So she went ahead, went to a tattoo artist that she secured, and got her 56 star tattoos. Now, after she was done getting the tattoos, she panicked. She saw what it looked like, she wasn't expecting it, and some people even started calling her, quote, a freak. She was like, wow, I have to do something, I don't know what to do. Let me just do the normal thing, make up a lie my way out of this one. So Kimberly proceeded to go to several news outlets and say that she had, quote, fallen asleep while getting tattooed. And the tattoo artist basically took advantage of her by tattooing on more stars than she agreed to in the first place. And he simply did it because she was sleeping. My initial thought there was, who falls asleep during a tattoo? I myself have a tattoo. I mean, it's not like so painful, but it's definitely painful and you can definitely feel it. I don't really see anybody falling asleep during that, especially a tattoo on the face. I don't know. But in any event, that was the story she decided to run with, and she even tried to sue the tattoo artist and tattoo parlor, claiming that this was all their fault and that she didn't consent. Now, initially, people believed her. They were actually kind of supportive of her, but eventually she would come out and say she was flat lying. And the reason she lied is because she didn't want to look like a freak. She was worried people were going to judge her, say she was crazy, and just didn't want to associate with her. So she tried to lie her way out of it, but that ended up backfiring. Now, after all the hustle and bustle died down from that, Kimberly began some very painful and very expensive laser treatments. It took her over 3 years and 9 laser treatments, and she was able to go back to basically normal. Here's a picture of the before with all the tattoos, and a picture of after, and she's looking pretty great. She's looking just like how she looked before she got the tattoos.
Starry, that's what we'll call her, man. That's the nickname, Starry.
The true story behind the movie The Orphan. It's about a girl named Natalia Barnett.
Natalia Barnett was actually an orphan who suffered from dwarfism, and she was first adopted by a New Hampshire family in 2008. Unfortunately, the family didn't work out and she was put back into the system again. So that was her first family, so keep that in mind. About 2 years later, she was adopted by the Barnett family in 2010. Florida agency ended up contacting them. They ended up giving a phone call and be like, hey, I have, a child named Natalia. She's from Ukraine. I have her up for adoption. You guys have over 24 hours to decide if you guys want to adopt her or not. They flew out to Florida, they went to go meet her in a small office, and instantly, as Natalia saw them, she ran up to them and referred to them as mommy and daddy right away.
The Orphan. We know that's a big
back in like 1990s and early 2000s. Channel 5.
Yeah.
It was very popular in Mexico. It was like the Mexican Channel 5. They had a section where they did something called service to the community, and they would put a bunch of pictures of missing people, and they put a picture of Selene Delgado. And you've probably seen the picture before, and it turns out that it was a fake, like it was a hoax. She's not a missing person. Maybe she's a real person, but she's not missing. So people searched up in the records of missing people, and she was not on there. So they don't know why they put her on there, but it's weird because they put her normal picture, and after a while, her picture looked different. It was that picture, that exact picture on top of her face.
And that shit happened on the news?
Yeah, they faked that. I don't know why they faked that. I think they were trying to scare people. But the weird thing is that picture is linked to something else. It's basically linked to Dedric Todd Lee, also known as the Baton Rouge serial killer, was an American serial killer between 1992 and 2003. Let's say a cop asks you, you're a witness, and the cop asks you, what did the person look like? Can you describe the suspect? Then a guy comes in, he sketches us out, and that was the sketch of Dedric Todd Lee.
That's how he looked?
That's how they described him, as how he looked.
So why would they
This is the disappearance of Kevin McAllister. On December 22nd, 1990, the McAllister family of Chicago, Illinois packed themselves up for a vacation to Miami, Florida. A vacation that Father Peter McAllister was somehow able to afford as a day trader in Chicago? The suitcases were packed, the alarms were set, and the Pepsi was taken easy on, so that Cousin Fuller did not wet the bed. Go easy, little buddy. On December 23rd at 8:40 a.m., the McAllisters headed to the airport. What mother Kate McAllister did not realize was that she would prove to be what the French call les incompetents. They left their son Kevin at home, alone. When the plane landed, Kate phoned police and a welfare check was conducted at the home. But it was reported to the family that Kevin was missing. That's when Kate McAllister left her family in Miami and headed back to Chicago to locate her son. Little did she know she'd never make it. and she was last seen at an airport in Scranton, PA. Kate was last seen with this mysterious group of men, all carrying tubas. She was never seen again. The only clues left behind were this bucket of paint, a broken picture of Buzz's girlfriend, Wolf, and traces of flesh on the floor, supposedly belonging to a bald head. So what do you think happened to Kevin McAllister? Was it the Wet Bandits, who were charged with criminal robbery and aggravated water damage on the same night of his disappearance? Do you think it could have been a local pizza delivery driver who got stiffed by Kevin and sought revenge on the little brat? Keep the change, you filthy animal. What about the spooky neighbor who had an estranged relationship with his son? Were we supposed to care about this plot point? What happened to Mrs. McAllister? And who are these large men? Is she in the tuba? Or is it something else?
Home Alone, Dark Origins, man. That's what they gonna name that movie.
I have a dream, a song to sing,
Having at Disney too?
to help me cope with anything.
Scared,
If you see the wonder,
it's too close to it.
of a fairy tale, you can take the future, even if you fail. I believe in angels.
It's too close to the shore. Way too
Something
close.
good in everything I see. I believe in.
How rare is your body? Only 10% of people are left-handed. However, they actually tend to live shorter lives. And only 1% of people in the world are ambidextrous. It means you have no preference of which hand you write and draw with. And only 1.5% of people have a single palm crease. This is mostly found in males and is a hereditary trait. And less than 1% of people have an extra rib. Most of us have 24 ribs, but some people are actually born with 25. And it's called a cervical rib. Now 3% of people have these little X's on their palms. It's extremely rare, but it's a sign that you have strong character.
Here's what some of the most famous monsters actually
I have
are.
X on my palm?
The chupacabra, the goat-griefing livestock leech believed to be first seen in Puerto Rico, was more than likely a dog with a severe case of mange, and that's when mites burrow into the skin and basically cause parasitic alopecia. Bigfoot, different animals, same beast, or whatever it was Kobe said. Anyway, it was probably a mangy bear. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. What the hell mange does? Coke bear done graduated to meth? And I don't mean numbers, the Loch Ness Monster. There have been many theories, but what's most likely was probably just an escaped circus elephant with trunks out like Dragon Ball. For centuries, there have been stories of killer Cyclops, a one-eyed op to humanity. Whole time, someone probably just found an expired elephant skull in an Olympic long jump to a conclusion. And last, almost every sea monster story you've ever heard was probably just some whale freeing his willy. That's exactly what you think it is, the more you know.
It is,
They're
what the
scary
hell?
what if theories. What if everything behind you disappears, but when you look back, it reappears? What if our shadows were warning us about something in the dark because they disappear in it? What if you're the only person left on Earth and everyone and everything around us are just imaginary people and things we've made up so that we don't feel lonely? What if every time you think you hear your name being called, it's actually just your family trying to wake you up from a coma? What if the meteor that killed the dinosaurs was actually a UFO and we're the aliens?
Tell me secrets, man. Down below, what are the most freaking weirdest what if questions she asked? I think when she said about the aliens and how if we hear our real name being called by family, we're really trying to wake up from a coma. I couldn't even imagine that.
Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better. Part 2. If you've already made it to the airport without dying, you shouldn't be nervous about flying because you've already made it through the deadliest part of plane travel. Whenever you pet an animal, it actually lowers your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. Side note, this may not work on electric eels, porcupines, or anything that could decimate you in 2 seconds.
You think?
Because guinea pigs get lonely, it's actually illegal in Switzerland to own just one. You have to get at least 2 if you want to have any at all. Sometimes tarantulas will keep tiny frogs as pets. The frogs will eat small insects that would typically eat the tarantula eggs, and in exchange, the frog gets a pretty damn good bodyguard. Capybara Land is a place in Japan where you can quite literally hang out with capybaras and see them chilling in hot springs. If 99% of the world's population finds you unattractive, that would mean that 78 million people still find you attractive.
You got a chance. You got a shot out there with somebody, bro. That's insane, man. Even if half the population thinks you're
This is
ugly.
one of the craziest urban legends I've ever heard. It ended up being true. So almost 100 years ago, there was an aquarium in Australia that had a giant tiger shark on display. And the legend goes that one day, in front of like groups of families, the shark threw up a human arm. And not only is that true, but it opened a murder investigation. Also, this week's episode is all about Australian true urban legends, so make sure you listen. So after the shark threw up the human arm, the police had to figure out whose it was and why it was in the shark's belly. Well, the first thing the police noticed was the arm was cut cleanly, not jagged like it was from a shark bite, meaning that the arm was intentionally cut. So now it's clear that this was a murder, but whose arm is it? Well, one thing they noticed is that the arm has two boxers in a fighting stance tattooed on it. So they end up writing about that in the paper, and one guy who was reading it goes, "Hey, that sounds like my brother's tattoo." His brother was a man named Jim Smith, and he was involved in the seedy underbelly of Sydney society. Jimmy ran insurance fraud scams in Sydney, and he was just involved with a lot of bad people. And the last person he was seen with was one of Sydney's most notorious criminals. The story has a lot of twists, including how was he involved with the last guy he was seen with. And there's a lot of fun Australian urban legends, like the story of the Button Man, so make sure you check out this week's episode.
Fun fact of the day that my small brain cannot physically comprehend. This one really did make me say, what the fuck? I want you to do me a favor and pour yourself a glass of water. Do it! Now, there is an immensely high chance that that water you're about to drink is older than the solar system. This is because it existed in ice specks floating in cosmic clouds before any of this shit came to be. Oh, and one more thing. Scientists estimate that every glass of water you drink has 100% passed through a dinosaur. So put immensely bluntly, the most vital thing humans need to survive is Jurassic wee-wee. My brain! Let's make a deal. If you didn't know these facts or they shocked you in any way, you have to share it. Now remind someone to stay hydrated today. And then immediately send them this video. We're so evil. Elon!
Jurassic wee-wee, bro. What the hell? I didn't even know that, but if you think about it, yeah, like the water we drinking, I guess he said they've been passed through dinosaurs, man. We drink Jurassic wee-wee, man. The more you know. Tap in with us. You gonna learn some things.
What's the most dangerous place on Earth? Number 8 is Lake Natron in Tanzania. The lake's so alkaline, animals get mummified. 7, Morgan Island, off the coast of South Carolina. 4,000 monkeys all infected with the herpes B virus. 6 is Mexico's giant crystal cave. 1,000 feet underground. Cave is 113 degrees Fahrenheit and 100% humidity. 5, Oymyakon, Russia. The coldest town on Earth, reaching minus 50 degrees. Number 4, Runnet Island. In the 70s, the U.S. government buried radioactive plutonium. Number 3, the K2 Summit. It's the inhospitable mountain summit in the world. Number 2 is Snake Island, an island full of thousands of poisonous snakes. It's illegal to go here. Number 1 is North Sentinel Island, home to the indigenous people who have violently rejected contact with the outside world. So much so, if you even get close, they'll swim out to you and try to kill you.
Now this is insane. Today I learned that in a remote village in Turkey, there is a family that walks on all fours. Now these individuals have baffled scientists since they were first discovered in 2005, and initially experts couldn't explain why they were the only known humans to walk on all fours. The only theory that they had was that humans were beginning to devolve. Yes, I am not kidding. I literally just posted a YouTube video reacting to some of these insane theories. The documentary on the family got roasted so hard that they had to turn off the comments. It's pretty good, check it out. Now the real reason that they walk on all fours, and to sum it up very simply, their parents are first cousins and have 18 children. And unfortunately, because of this, they were born with an extremely rare disorder that makes them lose their sense of balance. They had no balance as babies, and instead of learning to stand upright and walk like the rest of us, they remained crawling for life.
Damn, crawling for life? I couldn't do that.
Unfortunately, on Saturday, April 20th of this year in Newport, Michigan, a child's birthday that's supposed to be filled with joy was then filled with sadness and grief. 66-year-old Marcella Chidester drove her car into Swan Boat Club where a birthday party was being hosted. There, she unalived 2 children and injured 13 other individuals. Later in court, she testified stating that she had a seizure while she was driving and that caused her to have the accident. But police testified stating that she was tested for alcohol and she was highly intoxicated at the time of the crash. Her lawyer then claimed she did have 1 glass of wine before getting behind the wheel, but police said based on her BAC, blood alcohol concentration, it's impossible she only had 1 drink. As of April 23rd, she's being held on a $1.5 million bond and is being charged with murder. Being that this case is so recent, her exact jail sentence has not yet been determined. The 2 victims are 8-year-old Lana Phillips and her younger brother, 4-year-old Zane Phillips. I've put a link to a GoFundMe in the comments section for this family, and in the meantime, how long do you think Marcella should receive in jail?
Does anyone remember
How long,
when they were building a
Seekers?
freeway outside of St. Louis and they found over 200 bodies in one spot? And before I even get into it, you know that's what tonight's episode is going to be about.
Whoa.
So outside of St. Louis, there's this one area that has all of these strange mounds. There's no hills anywhere else, so people always wondered if they were man-made. But in the 1960s, when they were building a freeway there, they had to cut through these mounds for construction. So they thought they would just cut into them and there would be dirt inside. But that was not the case. One of the mounds had 272 bodies buried inside of it.
Damn.
And they were like, what is going on? Is this from a serial killer? Well, 2 things. First, the bodies were in really bad shape. The skeletons were largely women, and they were all lined up in these rows. And the ones that weren't women, a couple of them had been beheaded. And the second thing is that these bodies were 1,000 years old. It turns out that these mounds were from an ancient civilization that practiced human sacrifice. And this was kind of a big discovery because historians didn't think that indigenous Americans practiced ritual sacrifice until that discovery. But why were they sacrificing people and how were they doing it? Well, if you want to know more about what was happening in the area and you maybe want to know more about human sacrifice in general, you're definitely going to want to check out tonight's episode.
That's actually insane, Seekers, man. It wasn't just one man. There's like they said it was like 2 or 3 of them, so they was all filled up to the brim. Man, more you know, but like times back then, people went to some dark things, man.
These are the biggest things in the world. Up first, we have the world's biggest functioning iPhone. It's made by the YouTuber Matthew B. It's over 6 feet tall, and yes, actually works. And this is the world's largest pizza, which is enough to feed an entire village. It was made by 5 friends in Italy in December 2012. It measures 13,580 square feet. And this is the largest truck in the world. It's the Belize dump truck. And this truck is over 65 feet long, 33 feet wide, and 26 feet tall.
These are interesting facts to tell your friends, part 1. Up first, did you know 2 days in your life will not last 24 hours? And those days are the day you were born and the day you will die. This is absolutely insane, and just wrap your head around that for a second. Next, it is almost impossible to speak the biggest word in the English language. And it's on the screen now, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
Me either.
Next up, you only know you fell asleep when you wake up. So next time you're laying in bed trying to sleep, just know you won't know you fell asleep until you've woken up. Next up, you can feel that your toes are touching, but your brain just ignores it. Do me a favor and try and feel your toes touching. I bet you can. Next, 90% of people after a discussion are left thinking of arguments of stuff they could have talked about. And I know I'm 100% guilty of this. Next, our brain generates about 50,000 thoughts a day. I guarantee you can't even write down 50,000 thoughts. Finally, the last person you think about before you fall asleep is the source of all of your pain or all of your joy. So just remember that.
Really? I never even thought about it like that. Who do you guys think about before you guys fall asleep? Is it joy or pain?
Fun facts that you might find pretty damn interesting. Number 1, banging your head against a wall for an hour burns 150 calories. Number 2, approximately 40,000 Americans are injured by toilets each year. Number 3, there's a higher chance of you being elected president of the United States than winning the lottery. Number 4, an average of 100 people choke to death on ballpoint pens each year. Number 5, it is harder to be an employee at Walmart than a student at Harvard because Walmart has a lower acceptance rate. Number 6, human birth control pills work on gorillas. Number 7, there are 2 million millionaires in the United States. I am not one of them. And number 8, like fingerprints, every tongue print is different from person to person.
That's actually a freaking mind blowing fact with the one she said about president, man. That the president, that really goes to show you, man, how sometimes, man, I think the lottery, man, is just freaking corrupted, or there's a theory behind it where like they be choosing people to win. Because that makes no sense how you have a higher chance of becoming a president than actually winning the lottery. If you said that to a person, they probably look at you like you was crazy. But I guarantee you that's true.
This is why you should never go swimming in a lake again. If you ever go swimming in a lake, you can get a very severe brain infection called an agleria, and it's caused by amoebas that are found in lakes and rivers. The amoeba will then start slowly eating your brain, which you would most likely die from. This is extremely rare to get, but every time you go into a lake, you actually risk getting it. So, I for one am never going in a lake again, and I think you guys should do the same.
Thanks for that helpful information. We will not be doing it.
We are
No.
the most dangerous thing in Massachusetts. Yep, I'm talking about the Pukwoodji. We're those legendary forest spirits you've probably heard whispers about. We've been hanging around Massachusetts' woods since the Wampanoag tribes first called this place home. Sure, we can be a bit of a nuisance to humans, and once upon a time, we kinda got along. But then things took a turn for the worse, and humans started coming after us hard. Ever since, we've had it out for humans, not holding back and taking them out whenever we see a chance. We're all about messing with our targets, and what we do next, well, that depends on who you run into us at. If you're a hiker who's lost, we might help you find your way, though not back to the trailhead, if you catch my drift. Out hunting, watch out for our poison arrows, and if you're a young woman, well, we've got plans that don't bear going into. Long story short, if you're wandering through Massachusetts, keep your eyes peeled and know your surroundings. Comment your name if you want to be protected, and if you have an encounter with us, get away as soon as possible because
you will never go near the woods again if you watch this documentary. It is about hunters and people who specialize in being in the wilderness who just vanish without a trace. And I'm not talking like they wander into the woods and just go missing. In one of these cases, a guy went into the woods with a group of his friends and they went hunting. He was only about a couple of feet away from them when suddenly they turned around and he was gone. In many of these cases, massive search parties are released to try to find these people and they are never found. A couple of theories are discussed in this doc, like paranormal theories, Sasquatch theories, ideas that maybe they like fell into crevasses. If trained professionals are going missing in the wilderness, you bet your ass I'm not going anywhere near the woods. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced anything weird in the wilderness, and hit follow for more docs to watch.
She nailed it, man. Those are trained professionals going in the woods and they just disappearing, jumping off the face of the earth, and I ain't going nowhere near there, bro.
A woman who was missing for 30 years was just found alive in Puerto Rico. So Patricia Copta vanished without a trace from her home in Pennsylvania in 1992. The situation surrounding her disappearance was a little strange and scary because Patricia's mental health had been getting worse and worse over the years. So when she disappeared, the police told her younger sister and husband that they thought she left on her own accord and basically closed the case. They thought that she would maybe come back, but then 30 years went by with no phone calls and no contact. Everyone in her life had assumed she passed away. But recently, an 83-year-old woman in an elderly home in Puerto Rico started opening up to a nurse for the first time. The woman had been diagnosed with dementia and started bringing up things in her life that she had never spoken about before. This alarmed one of the nurses at the facility, who contacted authorities to get a DNA test because she started believing that this woman was a missing woman from the United States. And sure enough, it was Patricia. She had never told anyone about her previous. Were shocked.
Could you guys imagine that, man, just finding a lost relative like that?
12-year-old girl unalived her entire family so she could be with her 23-year-old boyfriend. Jasmine Richardson was a normal kid until she turned 11 years old. She started dressing in a darker aesthetic, liking some darker things. She would post on websites like MySpace and vampirefreaks.com, telling people she was 15 instead of 11. Because the thing about Jasmine is, even though she was 11, she didn't look 11. She always kind of looked older than she actually was. She started sneaking out to hang out with her new older friends and would meet older guys. By the time that Jasmine was 12 years old, she was in a full-on relationship with this freak, 23-year-old Jeremy. And just so you know, just because she was lying about her age on social media, this guy was fully aware that his girlfriend was 12 years old, a literal preteen, and he would also tell people that he was a 300-year-old werewolf. So for context, we are dealing with a full-on freak. Jasmine's parents were horrified when they found out that their 12-year-old daughter was online telling people that she was older than she actually was, and that she was dating a full-on adult. So they did their best to keep Jeremy away. Jasmine and Jeremy didn't want to be apart, and they thought that the only way that they could be together is if Jasmine's parents were no longer alive. What started out as jokes became real plans to not only unalive Jasmine's parents, but her 8-year-old brother as well. On April 22nd, 2006, Jasmine secretly led Jeremy into her home where he brutally unalived her parents. Jasmine's 8-year-old brother, Jacob, heard the entire thing while hiding in his room holding his lightsaber for protection. It's like heart-shattering. It's unclear who actually unalived 8-year-old Jacob because Jasmine and Jeremy blame each other for his death. Jasmine and Jeremy thought that they were soulmates, and now with her parents out of the picture, they were going to be together forever. But in reality, that was not the case. They were actually quickly brought to justice because they were bragging to anyone that would listen about what they had just done to her entire family. And of course, as soon as they were arrested, the soulmates turned on each other. Jeremy was sentenced to 3 life sentences, but due to Jasmine's age, she only served 6 years in a rehabilitation center and 4 years on probation. She was fully released into society in 2017 and has been out living in society, free as a bird, ever since under a new name. Actually, a lot of controversy in this case because of that, but what do you think? Do you think Jasmine is a victim, a child manipulated by a predator, or do you think if she's old enough to do the crime, she's old enough to do the time?
Terrifying facts you never knew.
You know what to
If
do.
your immune system ever found out that you have eyeballs, you would go blind. Which means right now your immune system has no clue that you can see. Because if it did, they would attack your eyeballs until you can no longer ever see. This is because your eyeballs have a protein in them called crystalline that doesn't exist anywhere else in your body. So if your immune system found out and checked them out, it would be like, something's wrong here. Studies show that most serial killers are born in November. Today's high school students have the same anxiety levels as insane asylum patients had in the 1950s. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, my anxiety might be up there too. There's a disease called fatal familial insomnia, where people suddenly one day lose their ability to fall asleep, which leads them to slowly go insane. They can't distinguish dreams from reality anymore and go into some type of paranoia. It becomes so severe that they eventually die. Those that make it to the final stage and don't die usually end up in a vegetative state, no longer conscious. And it can happen to any one of you. About 3,000 people go missing every year in the United States. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977. This was in France. And also that was the same year the first Star Wars movie came out. You are always 6 minutes away from death, but breathing resets the clock. In 2011, Anatoly Yakovich was arrested for having 12 dolls in his apartment. Only problem is, they weren't normal dolls. They were recently deceased little girls that had been dug up and dressed to be put on display. In 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted this to 4chan. It said, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It only took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch that he worked at, and he was fired. You really never know what people are doing to your food. H.S. Holmes was a serial killer who built a torture hotel in the 19th century. He had secret rooms with gas chambers, trap doors, and stairs that led to nowhere. He loved to play with his victims' minds. It was almost like a real-life Saw movie. There's a bridge in Scotland called the Overtoun Bridge, and for some reason, dogs keep jumping off of it at the same spot. Yeah, they just jump to their deaths. Experts can't figure out why either. Some people speculate it's a magnetic field, or maybe a frequency that only they can hear, but others believe it's something supernatural. But whatever is making dogs jump off that bridge to their deaths is still to this day unexplained. Joe McThemey was an infamous serial killer who not only cooked his victims to eat for himself, but also made them into burgers, using their remains. He then sold them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside food stand. We really never know what we eat. I'm cooking all my food myself. That's why I don't eat over people's house. In 2021, a new homeowner was shocked to find a boarded up wall. When he ripped the boards off the wall, he discovered a hole. In that hole was a doll clutching a note. The note saying that she killed a family who lived there in the 1960s. Be honest, would you move out?
I'm
In
out.
1978, there was a pilot named Frederick Valentin. Him and his plane disappeared in Australia. And his last communication was, Melbourne. That strange aircraft is hovering above me again. It is hovering, and it is not an aircraft. This is a mugshot of William West and William West. Oh, and they're not related at all, but they were both sent to Leavenworth Prison at the exact same time in 1903. And after some confusion, the staff finally figured it out. They were two different people who had the exact same name and looked identical. This was said to be one of the main reasons why we now use fingerprints to identify somebody. There's biotech being developed as we speak that can make prisoners feel they are serving an 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. That's horrifying. Imagine thinking you spent 1,000 years somewhere, and then when you wake up and snap out of it, you realize that it was only a couple hours. Do you know how crazy that is? Anyways, like this video if you want to.
This video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
You're gonna wish you didn't know. Part 1. When you go down or drop on a roller coaster and you suddenly feel your stomach drop, it's not just you feeling nervous. What you're actually feeling are your organs moving. Follow for the next fact.
Interesting.
Creepy facts that will keep you up at night. Part 1. 99% of all species to ever live have gone extinct. 1 in 3 murders go unsolved in the United States. Human heads remain conscious after decapitation for 20 seconds. Babies grow a moustache in the womb and eat it. Your bed gets heavier from mites, dust, and dirt.
Change those bed sheets, y'all.
This will make you never want to go into space. A man named Michael was alone in space with no other humans for thousands of miles. But then he heard static coming from his radio, and Michael had a gut-wrenching feeling. Hello, this is Michael Stanton of the Rising Dawn. Do you read me? Over. A breathless voice then replied, "Thank God. I didn't know how much longer I could survive out here. What's going on? Where are you communicating from?" The voice then said back, "I'm right outside your ship, Stanton. Open the hatch door and let me in." Michael's heart rate quickened. He found the strength to turn off the radio, and then he heard it. "Let me in," the voice repeated, but it wasn't like before. It sounded demonic, and Michael never opened the door. Everyone back home told him he could not have possibly heard those sounds in a space vacuum, but Michael still knew that thing was still out there.
Was the alien trying to get on board, bro? You was smart.
It's just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad. Honey, don't you love me and you know it makes me sad. Just a cigarette like you always used to do. I was different then, I don't need them to be cool.
Did y'all see that freaking mushroom, bro? I don't know if that's an edit or was that like a real mushroom that really grew to that size. What do you guys think? I don't know about that one, bro. You know, people be trying to do shrooms and crap.
10 animals that kill the most humans. Lions kill 200 people a year. Hippos kill 500 people a year. Elephants kill 600 people a year. Crocodiles kill 1,000 people a year. Scorpions kill 3,300 people a year.
If you were ever walking alone at night, be careful of it. Have you ever heard your name being whispered and you turned around and found that nobody was there? That could have been this creature called Siren Head. Siren Head lures its victims by calling out their name, and when the person finds the source of the sound, it's too late. Look, I used to not believe in any of this stuff, but I've had a lot of supernatural occurrences in the last year, such as walking down the street in the middle of the night and having every single lamppost burn out as I walked past it. Look, I don't know if this is real or not, but always bring a friend when you go on a walk at night. Be safe and follow if you want more creepy and incredibly true stories.
Beware of Siren Head, bro. That never happened to me, but...
Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. Part 28. This mirror selfie shows Giovanni Becerra, a Brazilian anesthetist, who was arrested after assaulting a pregnant woman during her C-section. He heavily sedated her and placed his private part in her mouth for 10 minutes, and is seen in a hidden camera wiping her face with gauze after he was done. This photo shows a group of US airmen who were taken as prisoners of war by Japanese soldiers in 1945. 8 of the 11 men were dissected while they were still alive, and the 3 others were placed in custody. This photo shows Michael and Susan Kuhnhausen after being married for 18 years. In 2006, Michael hired a hitman to kill his wife,
However, Susan choked the man with her bare hands, saying, "Tell me who sent you here, and I'll call you an ambulance."
Okay, that freaking doctor story was disturbing. That last one, man. She was a fighter. How did she do that to a professional hitman, bro? Never know what you're capable of. Did she call the ambulance for him, though?
Urban Legends That Ended Up Being Real, Part 10. Nightwalker. It is a bizarre, otherworldly creature captured by security footage in Fresno, California in the late 2000s. A homeowner noticed strange leg-like creatures appearing in his yard, moving in a smooth, almost gliding motion. When he checked his security footage, he was shocked to see what looked like a pair of long, thin legs with a small head gliding across his yard, without any torso or arms. The creatures, now known as Nightwalkers, quickly became an internet sensation, with many questioning whether they were aliens, ghosts, or something entirely unexplained. The video shows these strange, almost puppet-like figures moving in a way that appears unnatural, as if they're floating just above ground. A similar video surfaced a few years later in a national park, showing nearly identical creatures moving through a wooded area. To this day, no one has been able to explain exactly what the Fresno Nightwalkers are, and the footage remains one of the most mysterious pieces of evidence in history. If you have the guts, follow for the next urban legend.
Yo, what's up? Here's
Call
some
a
scary
cap on
facts
that.
about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 11. Every time you blink, another person in the world dies. And there's actually a website that shows you how many people die in a minute or in a day, how many babies are born, etc., etc. Yeah, it's pretty creepy. For the longest time, toddlers' adult teeth are actually located under their eyes. Imagine they broke through the skin, they would look like some kind of freakish baby zombie monster or something. Dogs can actually smell and map out diseases. Now we already know how strong a sense of smell is in a dog, and if you were placed in a line and you were the one infected, there's a very high chance that the dog would come sniffing at you. And if your dog's already doing that, then you might want to call the doc. There's actually a place in Antarctica called Blood Falls where it looks as if blood is flowing or spewing out of the side of an iceberg. Kind of looks like a crime scene to me, but we won't tell anybody. And lastly, there was once a woman who was blinded by a bad accident, and she developed multiple personalities, some in which she could actually see. You heard me say she was blind, right?
Sounds like some freaking comic book.
Here are some of the scariest
Yeah.
things that have happened on live TV. On August 19th, 1987, American writer David Horowitz was invited to KNBC to do a segment. While he was being introduced, a man named Gary Stolman appeared on set and pointed a gun at David's back. He was let into the studio after falsely stating that he was a guest of one of the hosts. He demanded that David read a statement that Gary had written, claiming that his dad was a CIA clone.
When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on.
After the statement was fully read, Gary put the weapon down on the table and was apprehended. It was later found out that the weapon Gary used was an unloaded BB gun, and he stated he never intended to hurt anyone.
You need to up their
People start
security.
making really big, scary things and putting them in water like this. This is part 77 of some of the worst mechanophobia things I've ever seen. Now, we've already talked about the German version of this statue, but this one is actually in Alabama, and I hate it. It is absolutely massive. Of course it is. Why wouldn't they be? And she is chilling in water. It is just the head and the knees. You can get on your boat and go and visit her, and could you imagine falling in with this? No. Of course, she is absolutely massive. Check her out compared to these humans. This is her being transported. Can you imagine driving next to this? I wouldn't even be able to drive next to this, much less see it in the frickin' water. This is her when she was being sculpted. God, just to think about something that absolutely massive just chilling in water. Why do people do that? Legitimately, why the frick do they do this? She was actually damaged during a hurricane, Hurricane Sally, long ass time ago. But she got a makeover, so she's rocking red hair and some really pretty lipstick. Still hate her though. But yeah, would you go check out this roadside attraction? I'll pass.
Nah, not me. It ain't for me, bro. Like I said, imagine falling in the water and seeing that. Be scared out your mind. That's obviously wrong. We in 2025, baby.
You are the only person alive on Earth right now. It's called the egg theory, and what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. So the theory goes that you are actually the only person alive right now. The only consciousness that actually exists. Everyone else is just a figment of your imagination. Your family, friends, strangers you meet on the street, all because your mind doesn't want to feel alone. But this is the scary part about this theory. Since you are the only true consciousness, you'll live every possible life there is and ever will be. So you'll be reincarnated and reborn billions and billions of times until you lived every single individual's life. And then you'll be able to hatch this egg and become a god. That's the theory. You see, the theory goes that the entire universe was created as an egg for the main character, which is you. And once you have lived every human life ever, you will be born as a god. The reason God created the universe was for the main character to understand this point. Every time you victimize someone, you were victimizing yourself. So be kind to people and you're being kind to yourself. And no lie, it sounds horrible, but you wouldn't know if you lived billions of lives already. You probably already lived over 1 billion, and you just don't remember it. You probably lived your mom's life, your cousin, the stranger across the street, the blind man you walked past sitting on a bench today. So in actuality, you're me and I'm you. You're the person in the hospital right now with an unknown disease, or the lady at the store right now buying apples. So every single person you know and ever will know was you.
Most people is the egg theory, bro. They got my mind twisted and turning, bro. I've heard the term, man, like, yeah, the main character in your life, or like main character syndrome, but that just put it in a different perspective. You guys believe that, man?
Assume that the different colored olives they find at their local delicatessen represent different varieties. However, the primary difference between green and purple olives is simply the point at which they are harvested.
Green olives are picked before they are ripe, while purple olives are allowed to ripen on the tree. Raw olives are naturally very bitter and must be soaked in a solution containing lye and then fermented in brine for 6 to 12 months before becoming palatable. The longer olives are fermented, the less bitter and the more flavorful they become.
Canned olives are sort of like maraschino cherries. Most are artificially colored, unholy aberrations of nature.
The average lifespan of an olive tree is between 300 and 600 years, though many live well into their thousands. The oldest olive tree in the world is on the island of Crete. It is purported to be approximately 4,000 years old and is still producing fruit. A single olive tree can produce up to 20 gallons of olive oil per year.
Stay curious, my friends.
We will. That's why we watch these clips together with you guys.
This mother listened as her daughter was mauled by a bear. On August 2011, 19-year-old Olga Moskolyova went fishing with her stepfather at a river in the village of far eastern Siberia. This area is known for its significant bear population and it's home to one of the largest brown bears in the world. On this day, Olga called her mother and told her that she was being eaten by a bear. At first, she thought her daughter was joking, but then she heard the bears growling and chewing and she realized that this was real. Her mother then called her husband, which is Olga's stepfather, but little did she know he was already deceased. The story is that they were done fishing and were on their way back when they realized that they forgot something. So they walked back to the river and came face to face with a brown bear and her cubs. Olga's stepfather was attacked first and Olga tried to run away, but the bear caught up to her. While Olga's stepfather was already deceased, the bear came back several times to attack Olga until she was dead. But during the attack, Olga was able to call her mother 3 times, and during this call, she told her that she was being eaten by the bear and her cubs. She then ended the conversation by telling her mother that she loved her. The mother called police and they arrived to the location in about 30 minutes and they found the bear still eating her husband's body. Like I said, this area is known to have a lot of bears, so people usually bring protection with them, but it was said that Olga and her stepfather did not. Have you guys heard of this recent case of this stepmother who starved this 4-year-old child to the point where he passed away? If you guys want to skip this short video and watch the full story with all the details, make sure to go on my YouTube channel. I have the video there. 4-year-old Benjamin Severa, also known as Benji, was a sweet, playful little boy who was living with his mother for the first 2.5 years of his life until his father gained full custody. A year later, Benji's father, Brandon Severa, met this woman woman named Miranda Caceres. Miranda was a single mom and had a 3-year-old son from a previous relationship, but despite this, her relationship with Brandon moved really fast and she moved into his apartment only a few weeks after they met. Not long after she moved in, things got very toxic at home and a lot of the anger was put on little Benji. It was said that she would starve him, and when investigators came and looked inside the house, they saw locks on the kitchen cabinets and on the fridge. They also had cameras all over the house, especially inside the kitchen, to monitor Benji and make sure that he wasn't taking any food.
Eventually, it would get harder for him to do so as more locks were put on cabinets and the refrigerator.
Aside from that, Benji was also being hurt by Miranda and his father, apparently, and there are videos and photos of investigators going inside the home and seeing Benji with black eyes and bruises all over his body. Now, Benji's father also contributed to what was going on in the house. There's text messages between him and Miranda where he told Miranda to not feed Benji dinner. He was also aware of all the bruises and injuries on Benji's body, and according to Miranda, he was the one creating those bruises. There were also videos found on Miranda's phone of Benji crying and begging for food, and these videos were sent between Miranda and Brandon. There is so much evidence in this case, but Miranda was the only one who was convicted, and she was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and Benji's father was able to walk free. I was not expecting that at all, but again, if you guys want to watch the full thing with the details and the videos, make sure to head over to my YouTube channel.
That's messed up. The father should not have went free. If you was participating in that, man, and there was evidence, you gotta go down too. I told you, man, the system, bro. It's an ever ongoing battle.
The Sodder family is known for the mysterious and tragic disappearance of their 5 children on Christmas Eve in 1945. George and Jeannie Sodder, along with their 10 children, lived in Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire broke out in their home in the early hours of December 25, 1945, completely destroying their home. While 5 of the children were initially thought to have perished in the blaze, no physical evidence of their remains were ever found. The circumstances surrounding the fire raised numerous questions, leading the Sodders to believe that their missing children may have been abducted. The family conducted their own investigation and never gave up hope of finding their children. But the mystery of the Sodder children's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. The case is considered to be one of the most endearing unsolved mysteries in American history.
Here are some morbid facts about your favorite Christmas movies. The Grinch as a kid was played by an 18-year-old actor with dwarfism. Sadly, he died of heart failure just 2 years after the movie released. Many of the indoor scenes in the movie Elf were shot inside an abandoned mental asylum in Canada called Riverview Hospital. All of the characters in Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas were inspired by hallucinations he had during a fever that nearly killed him. There's a convincing fan theory that suggests Kevin McAllister from Home Alone grew up to become the serial killer Jigsaw from the Saw movie franchise. South Park's Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh originated from when Trey Parker was potty training at age 4. His father told him if he didn't flush his Mr. Hanky, it would come to life and kill him in his sleep. While filming for The Grinch, the thick makeup and prosthetics made Jim Carrey feel like he was being buried alive every day. It became so brutal for him that they had to hire a former CIA agent to teach him techniques for coping with torture.
And they still went through with it?
Following me, and I can't tell what it is.
Brother, you're about to die. I'm just kidding, it's a fisher cat, which isn't actually a cat, and apparently they don't even fish because the naming guy had a stinker. Like the guy that named a not an eel an eel, or a not a shrimp a shrimp, and this not a badger but a honey badger. Speaking of honey badger, they pull up to the same family reunion, and as a mustelid, they're also related to otters and weasels. The fisher cat, not to be confused with the fishing cat that's also real, is basically a travel-sized Wolverine. And don't let the feral ferret fool you, they've been known to run fades with lynxes and win. It's also proven that they'll pass tense a porcupine and live to do it again. And yeah, they're a lot bigger than I thought they were. This is what one about to catch a body looks like. Brother, my guy, you are getting hunted. I'm just kidding again. He's just being curious. Say that, cuz if he was really on timing, you would not be seeing him. Might hear him though. If you've ever been in the woods and heard the sounds of a woman getting escorted off the census, chances are you just heard a fisher family. Or at least that's what I thought. Apparently fishers don't make that much noise in general, and the scream thing is probably a myth. And the more I know. Another myth is that they snatch children. While I'm sure someone in the history of mankind's gotten folded by a featherweight Wolverine, they usually avoid people, so you probably did something to deserve it. So yeah, the cameraman's in no danger, and that's not a fisher or a cat, but it's somehow both. But if the fisher's not a screamer, what is this?
It's an awful sound.
It's screaming.
So apparently we know of 69 different alien species.
These are cataloged 69 different species, different life forms. There's one species that at full adulthood is about a foot and a half. There's another species that's 10 or 12 feet. The ones that people often refer to are around 3 to 4 feet, 39 inches or so tall. We have very good forensic drawings from men who've been on the retrieval teams of what these various species look like. The reason they keep coming back, number one, it's not a coincidence that the modern era of all this started when we started detonating atomic bombs. What Edward Teller and Oppenheimer didn't understand when they were developing that is that when you detonate an atomic bomb, you get, everybody knows about an electromagnetic pulse, the pulse that goes out, knocks out all electronic communication. What people didn't know about is there's also a pulse of what's called scalar energy. And scalar is faster than the speed of light.
You guys believe, man, aliens walk among us? Could be a possibility, man. Bro, we've never mapped out, I guess, space truly, so who are we to say, man, aliens don't exist? What the hell, that we already know 69 species? Threw my noggin for a loop.
If you drive or know anybody that drives in the UK, you are screwed. I genuinely cannot believe what I'm seeing and how this is actually real. Make sure you share this video with someone that drives right now. Right, so we know there's speed cameras flipping everywhere on the UK roads, right? And only a year ago we had the whole talk about getting 100-mile-an-hour speed limits, and that's not happened yet. Now, of course, we know the typical speed cameras, average speed, ones that now detect your mobile phones, and now this. So these new cameras have been being spoken about for over a year, and now they are actually starting to be tested and rolled out, with the first person actually already being fined £100 and getting points. So what these cameras will do is detect noise from your loud vehicles, but not just that, because it will detect if you're listening to music too loudly as well. So you're cruising along in your car, if you have a fast car that's loud, you could get points. But if you're also just cruising along listening to your music and it's a bit too loud for them, they will be able to tell and you will get a point. Now, we don't know exactly how loud it has to be or how loud the car has to be, but God forbid you're driving a sports car listening to music extremely loud, you are cooked. Make sure you hit that follow button and I'll keep you updated.
Now,
Imagine that in the US.
About one of the other Liverpool giants in a previous video, the one where they lowered it down into the water. But this one is unique. This one eats. Just wait for the video. It is nauseating. Now, as you know, Liverpool had like a whole thing where they brought in like a bunch of marionettes. They had this guy come in on a boat. They walked him through the town of Liverpool, England, and look how massive it is compared to those people. Look how tiny this little person is compared. Oh God, I could not even be around these things. Watch this video and let me know how we're feeling.
Why'd it make it so it could eat? It's too realistic for me. You brushing his teeth too, bro? What the? It's a damn robot. Or animatronic, like you said. It drinks stuff too? is, I'm like, it's burning, bro. I think we know what this is supposed to represent.
Nightmares. Many doctors have said that the most common last words that they hear are, "I don't feel so good." Most of the laughing sound effects that you hear on TV shows were recorded in the 1950s, meaning that most of those people that you hear laughing are probably dead. During the French Revolution, it was said that the guillotine had to be used multiple times to get the job done. The reason why planes shut their lights off right before they land is so that the passengers' eyes can adjust to the dark just in case there's a crash. This is so that if the power goes off during the crash landing, they can better find an escape route.
This girl
facts.
was born with two heads. Manar Magid was born in Egypt in 2004, but she wasn't born alone. Attached to her head was another head, a second skull, a face that could blink, smile, and move its lips, but had no body of its own. It was her twin, a parasitic twin, fused to her scalp and feeding off her bloodstream. The condition is called Craniohopicus parasiticus, and it's so rare that fewer than a dozen cases have ever been recorded in human history. The second head had no thoughts, no consciousness, but it moved, and it lived through her. Doctors feared that Manar wouldn't survive. The parasitic twin was draining her body's strength. Her organs overworked just to keep both heads alive. Every heartbeat, every breath, shared. In 2005, at just 10 months old, Manar underwent a high-risk surgery to remove the second head. The surgery was a success, and it was the first of its kind. And Manar lived. She opened her eyes, she smiled, but the victory was short. Just weeks after the surgery, she died of a brain infection. Her body simply couldn't keep up.
We have some crazy things happening in the world right now. Kim Jong-un watched as North Korea's newest warship literally fell off the dock. A man proposed to his girlfriend with a tornado swirling in the background. Nvidia is attempting to create an entire digital twin of the Earth. Rockstar changed the appearance of a character from the GTA 6 trailer after a Florida man claimed it was him and asked for money. AI can now guess passwords with 93% accuracy just by listening to the sounds of your keyboard keystrokes over Zoom. Can you guess that? Russian scientists thawed out 300 worms from Siberian permafrost, and two of them that are both over 30,000 years old came back to life. Don't think that's gonna end well for us. This is the world's last known white giraffe, and he is being tracked by a GPS after his female counterpart and calf were taken out by poachers.
Babies who were born on the literal perfect day. Back in 2019, a baby girl was born on July 11th, making the date 7/11. Well, the baby was also born at 7:11 p.m., and the baby also weighed 7 pounds and 11 ounces. From this, the convenience store 7-Eleven saw this and gave the baby $7,111, making this baby the most 7-Eleven baby in history. Next, in 2022, this baby girl was born at one of the craziest times possible because she was born on February 22nd, 2022, which is 2/22/2022. But she was also born at 2:22 a.m. and she weighed 7 pounds and 10 ounces, which makes her a total 122 total ounces. And I can't forget that she was born in room number 2 of the hospital. This is absolutely wild.
You know how all those things have to line up for something like that to happen? That's like truly rare.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Episode 20. Number 1. Coffin births. This is a rare phenomenon that is scientifically known as post-mortem fetal extrusion. It occurs when a pregnant woman dies and her body expels the fetus. The gases in the abdomen builds up and then forces the stillborn fetus out. Number 2. Jeannie, the feral child. Discovered in 1970, Jeannie was a girl who had been kept isolated by her family in Los Angeles for over a decade. She was almost entirely mute and had barely any exposure to human interaction or the outside world. Number 3. The Green Children of Woolpit. In the 12th century, 2 children with green-tinted skin appeared in the village of Woolpit in England. They spoke an unknown language and only ate raw beans. Eventually, their skin lost its green color and they adapted to normal food. The origin of these children still remains a mystery. Number 4. The Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922, an entire family was mysteriously murdered at their farm in Germany. Reports found footsteps leading to their farm, but not away. This case was never solved. 6. The Devil's Kettle. In Minnesota, United States, there is a waterfall that splits into two. One side flowing into a river and the other side vanishing into a hole. Scientists still don't know where that water goes. Number 7. NASA would never release information about asteroids approaching Earth. Not because they're worried about us freaking out. It's because we don't have the technology to detect if there are asteroids coming from very far away. Number 8. Human extinction. This is linked to number 7. We can't really confirm if any asteroids are coming to hit us because in 2017 an asteroid named AG-13 was about to hit Earth with less than the distance of the moon. The asteroid flew so fast, scientists were only able to see it 48 hours before it could have hit Earth. This is real information. Let me know if you want part 21.
First of all, these waves are screaming to you to not come in. And then to put your child in that situation and to record it.
This elephant killed a woman and crashed her funeral. In 2022, 70-year-old Maya Murmur was gathering water near her home in India. It was supposed to be a routine task, but that morning, a herd of wild elephants emerged from the nearby forest. Most villagers know to keep their distance. Maya tried to flee, but one elephant broke away from the group, chased her down, and trampled her with brutal force. She died at the scene. Her grieving family arranged a funeral later that day. As is custom, Maya's body was placed atop a wooden pyre for cremation, a solemn ritual under the open sky. But then, thunderous footsteps echoed in the distance. The same elephant had returned, and this time it brought reinforcements. A stampede of elephants crashed into the village mid-funeral, sending terrified relatives running for cover. In a scene that defied any logic, the very elephant that had killed Maya pulled her lifeless body from the pyre and trampled her a second time. Her remains were left mangled, and the ceremony was left in ruin. This elephant must have had some personal issues with Maya, and this death is just extremely unfortunate.
Inappropriate.
I don't know what Maya did to the elephant, man, but that's insane. He literally came back to run the feed again, even though he already did it the first time, bro. That is extremely odd. I don't know what was going on with that elephant.
Children's books that actually exist, part 2. The Loneliest Hoe in the World, written by Travis Heaton and published in 2002, this Christmas tale begins with Santa preparing to depart with his reindeer. He congratulates his elves on a job well done by sharing with them some elf juice, and then boards his sleigh until coming to the realization that he's forgotten his hose. Christmas isn't Christmas without hose, Santa proclaims. Ain't that the truth? You Can't Be an Astronaut is Just Not Realistic, written by Joseph Smets. This book is a 26-page story that documents a boy who meets astronauts and shares his dream of having their career in his future. They point blank tell him not to bother. They go further by telling him of the complicated prerequisites and the difficult trigonometry. And when the boy asks if he can be an astrologist instead, they tell him astrology is a joke of a career.
Let's see if you have submechanophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. Try your best to make it through all 5. Let's start the test.
Here we go.
First one. How does this make you feel?
I'm okay.
Hang on in there. The ocean is terrifying.
What is that?
Last one. So how did you do? Did you make it through all 5? If not, then you could have submechanophobia, which is the fear of submerged man-made objects. Let me know if you have submechanophobia in the comments below, and remember to hit the plus sign and follow me to see if you can make it through the next phobia test.
I'm good.
Disturbing history facts I wish I didn't know. Tarare, a Frenchman from the 1700s, ate extraordinarily large amount of food, including animals and allegedly a baby. He suffered from polyphagia and died at 26. In 1888, James Jameson, heir to the Jameson whiskey fortune, bought a 10-year-old girl to observe her being unalived and eaten by cannibals in Congo. In the 18th century, dentures were sometimes made from the teeth of dead soldiers, notably those from the Battle of Waterloo, and sold to the wealthy. A Colorado farmer's chicken named Mike lived for 18 months without a head becoming a sensation and touring the U.S. Ancient Romans used human urine as a teeth whitening and stain remover for clothes due to its ammonia content. Frederick Bauer, the inventor of the Pringles can, was so proud of his invention that his remains were buried in a Pringles can after his death in 2008.
Nah, that man was dedicated to his invention, bro. His remains
As
in a
we all
Pringle
know,
can.
there's been a new wave of conflict in the Middle East, where multiple air bases were under attack, including the one in Qatar. The United Arab Emirates strongly condemns the attack, considering it a blatant violation of the sovereignty of the state of Qatar and its airspace. The act is also a clear breach of international law and the United Nations Charter. To the citizens and residents in the UAE, kindly stay away from sharing content that are not from a reliable source. If you do, you must know, spreading misinformation contributes to panic, confusion, and societal division. In times like this, awareness is a responsibility. Let it be clear, we are not in danger. Circulating unverified videos only fuels panic, when in reality, the situation on our soil remains stable and secure. Again, we are not in danger. If you do come across any information or incidents that may affect public safety, do not hesitate to report them. Here are the official numbers for the concerned national security authorities. All reports are handled with complete confidentiality. Put your trust in your leaders. The UAE has always stood for peace and progress. We do not and will not involve ourselves in political conflicts. We choose evolution, not war. May Allah keep us safe, united, and guided by wisdom.
Morbid Facts, Part 310. On the day before 9/11, George Carlin recorded a live set in Las Vegas titled I Kinda Like It When a Lot of People Die, intended as the closing segment of his next special on HBO. But after the attacks the very next morning, the title suddenly felt incredibly disrespectful for obvious reasons. Carlin wisely shelved the material and renamed the special Complaints and Grievances. A few years later, he planned to revive the original title for a new special, only to scrap it once again following the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. In 1959, popular New York DJ Peter Tripp locked himself in a glass booth in Times Square and attempted to stay awake for more than 200 hours as part of a publicity stunt. But as the days passed, Tripp's mind began to unravel. He started hallucinating vividly, screaming that doctors were imposters, believing that people were trying to poison him, and insisting that the furniture was on fire. By the end of it, he had entered a full-on psychotic state. Though he eventually recovered enough to return to broadcasting, those close to him said he was never the same psychologically. His stunt became one of the earliest public examples of sleep deprivation's terrifying effects on the human brain.
It's possible that
That's
your
insane,
best
bro.
friend might not consider you their best friend. You're not as nice as you think you are. Like, you're most definitely the villain in somebody else's story. Finding love isn't guaranteed in this life, and it's quite possible that the person that you might fall in love with one day in the future is in love with somebody else right now.
That's a sad fact.
This is why you should never play hide and seek. A mom decided to play hide and seek with her 2 kids. The mom began counting, ready or not, here I come. She begins searching the downstairs kitchen because she knows that they hide there every single time. As she's walking to the kitchen, she starts saying, I wonder where they are. She looks under the table and sees they aren't there, which is kind of odd. She knew they were too scared to go into the basement alone, but she decided to check anyway. They weren't there either. She began to panic. The mom then says, Jordan, Casey, come out now, mommy's not playing anymore. There was no answer. Panic really begins to set in. She decides to call 911 and reaches an operator. She tells the operator what's wrong and the operator sends an officer to her house. Once the officer arrives, he says, don't worry, we will find them. As she's sitting in the living room, she hears giggling and laughing and hears a closet door slam upstairs. She sprints upstairs and says, Jordan, Casey, you worried me sick. She opened the closet door and nobody was there. While all of this is going on, she hears the doorbell ring. She runs downstairs and finds the officer holding Jordan and Casey. The officer says they were hiding in the shed out back. Then Jordan looks at mommy and says, why were you telling us to stay in the shed?
3 normal things in one country but shocking to the rest of the world. Part 12. Number 3. In Germany, the deposit system for bottles and cans actively encourages recycling. When you buy a drink, you pay a small additional sum, called Pfand, which is refunded when you return the empty bottle or can to a collection point. This initiative, aimed at promoting recycling and reducing waste, allows consumers to earn a bit of money in return. Number 2. In Japan, the tradition of Valentine's Day is somewhat different from many other countries. On February 14th, it is usually the women who give chocolates to men, whether it's romantic love, work colleagues, or friends. Men are not supposed to give gifts on Valentine's Day. However, they have their turn a month later, on March 14th, during White Day, where they are expected to give a gift in return to those who gave them chocolates. Number 1. Wow. Public toilets in America are often surprising to foreigners due to the lack of privacy they offer. Stalls are designed with large gaps between the doors and frames, allowing a partial view inside. Additionally, the doors are usually shorter, sometimes exposing users' legs. While this design is typical in the US, it can shock those who are used to complete privacy in public toilets.
The hell? Got some weird toilet designs going on around the
Biblical
world.
places that still exist. Jordan River, where Jesus was baptized.
Wow.
The rock that
Beautiful.
Moses struck and water came out. Jesus' tomb.
I heard they try to read that. That ain't well.
River of Galilee that Jesus walked on. Red Sea that Moses split. Synagogue that Jesus went to.
Gotta preserve all those sites.
Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus was arrested.
Full bloom.
Place where Jesus healed the paralytic. Place where Jesus told Sermon on the Mount.
3 extremely disturbing facts you won't believe are actually true. Number 3. In a bizarre case, an Ohio man was mistakenly declared dead by the Social Security Administration in 1979. Upon discovering this error in 1994, he immediately initiated legal action to restore his status as a living person. However, a judge refused to overturn the decision, stating that there was a 3-year limit to challenge such a declaration. As a result, this man is legally living as a deceased person in his own country. Number 2. There's a disturbing practice at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. The chicks that hatch live in front of visitors in their chick hatching exhibit are then sent to the Brookfield Zoo where they are fed to predator animals. This is a shocking truth hidden behind a seemingly innocent exhibit. Number 1. Disneyland and Disney World are iconic places, often associated with joyful family memories. However, there's a strange phenomenon that occurs in these parks. People so frequently scatter the ashes of their loved ones there that Disney had to establish a special procedure to deal with it. A dedicated team is ready to intervene as soon as an ash scattering is reported, cleaning up the area to maintain the park's joyful atmosphere.
You have to hear this. A man claims that he encountered a demon while working as security at a strip club. Protestant Christian YouTuber End Times Productions said that back in 2015, when he was 29 years old, he got hired as a security guy at a strip club in Key West, Florida. He said that he's a big guy, 6'4" and 225 pounds. and after a year, he worked his way up to becoming the main security guy there. He said that the club was open until 4 a.m. and that it was a very busy part of town. He referred to it as Party Central. He said that he has many stories about the place, but there's one night in particular that he will never forget. He said that one night at around 2:30 a.m., a woman tried to come into the club. He said that they would never let single women into the club because they would, quote, snipe the men. And they wanted all the men to stay there because they were paying the bartenders, the dancers, and the waitresses. So it was bad for business. On this particular night, the woman, who was around 40 years old, approached him and tried to make small talk. He said, okay, cool, but I can't let you in. She started to get a little upset and angry, but he said, sorry, no matter what you do or what you say, I can't let you in. She then grew more angry and started arguing with him. So he said, just leave before I call the police. What happened next is crazy. He said that she turned around and started to walk away. Then she turned back toward him with an evil grin on her face, but her eyes were completely black. There was no white in them at all. He said that shivers went up his spine and his blood ran cold. And he was thinking to himself, whoa, what just happened? As she walked out the door.
I don't know. That sounds like that could be a skinwalker. Eyes turned on black. Or case of the Black Eyed Kids. He was just doing his job. He wasn't letting her in. I don't know what her problem was. She could have been a demon. That's what he said. Yeah, late at night.
A 6-year-old took the life of his classmate because she rejected him. 6-year-old Dedric Owens lived in Mount Morris Township, Michigan, which was about an hour away from the state's capital. He wasn't born into the best family as his father was in jail, but on the other hand, his mother was there and tried to support him and his brother as much as she could. She worked 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough and they got evicted. Dedric ended up living in a crack house with his uncle, and this soon would affect his behavior. At 6 years old, his behavior was really bad. He would swear, flip people off, pinch, and hit other kids. His behavior got so bad that he had even stabbed a girl with a pencil in his school. On February 29th of 2000, Dedric got into a fight with another male classmate. It escalated so quickly that he had even threatened to shoot the boy. No one knew that Dedric had found a gun at his uncle's house and brought it with him to school along with a knife. He decided not to use it yet because he had plans on using it on 6-year-old Kayla Rowland. Just the day before, Dedric tried to kiss Kayla, but she pushed him away and rejected him, which made him really mad and he wanted revenge. Once it was time to change classes, Dedric walked up to Kayla and said, "I don't like you," and shot her once in the arm. The bullet entered her right arm and hit a vital artery, which caused her to suffer from a cardiac arrest, and she was pronounced dead. Dedric had threw the gun in the trash before running to a nearby bathroom, but eventually was cornered by teachers and law enforcement. Once he was in police custody, he explained what he had done and showed no remorse. Because of Dedric's age, he was not charged with murder, but was instead expelled for 90 days and was placed into foster care. His uncle ended up being arrested and sentenced up to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter.
These are brands with disturbing secrets. Surprisingly, Kellogg's cornflakes weren't invented as a tasty breakfast cereal, but to curb sexual desires. A fanatically religious John Harvey Kellogg invented the cereal while working at a sanitarium and believed that richer foods would increase your sexual desires while plain foods would lessen it. So he invented the most boring breakfast cereal ever to stop people enjoying themselves a little too much. Thankfully, his brother Will would come to the rescue and see some sense by adding sugar and marketing the cereal properly, eventually winning a legal battle for control of the whole company.
Whoa. We know that's the wrong theory.
Ants can live a really long time. Like, way longer than I thought. Your normal everyday ant can live like 4 to 15 years. And there have been queens on record living up to 28 years. Next time I have to step on an ant, I'm really gonna be like mourning their whole ass life. This is the hognose snake, and when it feels threatened, it'll puff itself up and hiss at you. But if that doesn't work, it'll flip itself over and play dead. And if you take the snake and flip it from its back to its belly, it'll just flip itself back over. Like, no, I'm supposed to be dead. Penguins are able to drink salt water like it's fresh water because they have this gland behind their eyes that actually filters their blood and allows them to sneeze the salt out. Now, I'm not saying that we need to hire a bunch of penguins to save the world or whatever, but it's an option.
You're spitting at the end.
According to a recent study on rainbow trout, fish can suffer for more than 20 minutes of intense pain after being taken out of the water. When fish are removed from water, their gills collapse, preventing oxygen intake and causing carbon dioxide to build up in their system. This triggers a strong physiological pain response, which researchers now widely accept as evidence that fish can experience real suffering. The study adds to growing scientific consensus that fish are sentient, capable of feeling pain, and should be treated more humanely in commercial fishing and aquaculture practices.
She lost her life from this poisonous birthday cake.
Where'd she get the cake from?
On March 24th of 2024, it was 10-year-old Manvi's birthday in India. For her birthday celebration, her family ordered a cake online from a place called Cake Ganha. Around 7 p.m., Manvi was cutting the cake in front of her family, and this was all being recorded on video. All of the family members, including Manvi, consumed the cake, and about 3 hours later, they all got really sick. Manvi and her sister began vomiting, and she even complained of extreme thirst and dryness in her mouth, so she asked for water. After drinking her water, she went to sleep, but by the morning, her health would deteriorate. Around 3 a.m. is when everything would go downhill for Manvi, and her family rushed her to the hospital. When she arrived to the hospital, doctors administered oxygen to her and an ECG was done, but soon after that, she passed away. Her family claimed that there had to be a poisonous substance in the cake since they all got sick and filed a report against the owner of Cake Kanha. Back at home, Manvi's family still had the cake sitting there, so they took a sample of it so it could get tested, and once it came back, it revealed that her cause of death was suspected food poisoning. Ultimately, high levels of synthetic sweetener made the whole family sick from eating this cake and even resulted in death.
Man, we gotta watch what they be putting into this food. Synthetic sweeteners, man, just for them to save some money. And look what happened. We gotta watch what we put into our bodies, man. Let's give us natural food from the earth, like it was intended.
Historical belongings that survived. King Edward VII love chair, made because he's fat and he had more than 50 mistresses. King Henry VIII armor. Queen Elizabeth I coronation glove. Comparison between Queen Elizabeth I and Elizabeth II coronation gloves. Catherine the Great furniture. Warning, do not look it up. Marie Antoinette's death mask. Queen Victoria's mourning dress. Shirt worn by King Charles I at the time of his execution. Queen Victoria's drawing of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. Tooth and hair belonging to Catherine Parr.
The 3 most dangerous places you should never set foot. Number 3. The Hoia Baciu Forest, located in Romania, is often dubbed the Haunted Forest due to the many paranormal stories reported there. Many visitors have described feelings of anxiety, a sense of being watched, and some even claim to have seen ghostly apparitions. In addition to the inexplicable phenomena, the forest features oddly shaped trees in areas where vegetation doesn't grow at all, heightening its mysterious ambience.
Okay.
Number 2. The Chernobyl zone in Ukraine is the site of the biggest nuclear disaster in history. In 1986, a reactor at the nuclear power plant exploded, releasing significant amounts of radioactive material into the environment. Today, while some parts of the region are open for strictly controlled tours, others remain highly contaminated by radiation and can pose a severe health hazard. It's crucial to adhere to safety guidelines and not stray off marked paths. Number 1. The Valley of the Kings in Egypt, located on the west bank of the Nile near Luxor, is famous for its royal tombs dating back to ancient Egypt. While it's a popular tourist destination, it comes with risks. Beyond natural dangers like extreme heat and the risk of dehydration, there have been speculations and legends about the pharaoh's curse, where those who disturb the pharaoh's tombs would be cursed.
Facts that I wish I didn't know. When you die, the last thing to go is your hearing. So as all your other mortal sensations are leaving this world, the last thing you're ever going to experience are the sounds going on around you, which very well could be like your family members crying or cheering. By the year 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish. When pigs get a cold, like a cough, very often they will shoot their intestines out of their anus, and farmers have to, like, stuff it back in.
That's disturbing.
This is why you should always keep pictures of your parents. A little girl named Olivia, who lived a very quiet life, decided to check her homework assignments that were posted online. The teacher posted that they needed to write down their favorite memory with their family, as well as bring a photograph. Olivia then writes about how her and her mom play dolls every night in the basement before bed, and that she has a lot of fun doing so. She finishes her paragraph and then looks in her dad's drawer for a photograph of mom. She only found pictures of her mom from high school, but decided to use it anyway. Olivia goes to bed and wakes up the next morning. Once she arrives at school, the teacher then says, "Let's start presenting our project." Then the teacher called Olivia's name to present. Olivia then begins to read about how her and her mom play dolls every night, and then pulls out the photograph. As soon as Olivia pulled out the photograph, her teacher's face goes numb. She then asks Olivia if she can take a closer look at the photograph. She then recognized her mom as one of her previous students. Then the teacher asks, "Where did you get this photo?" Olivia says, "My dad keeps them in his drawer." The teacher, shocked, sits down Olivia and pulls out an old newspaper. The newspaper headline, "Local high school teen murdered, boyfriend gone missing." The teacher then looks at Olivia and says, "Your mom has been dead for 14 years.
So who's the dad then? What the hell? That's a mystery that we're going to solve. Okay. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video. Comment down below. Don't forget to hit that post notification bell. You guys are going to catch in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.